Okay, this is an animation tutorial using Pygame, and this is what the project's gonna kind of look like at a pretty early stage. It's running on a Android phone. Just pretty simple. In about 20 minutes we should be able to get something like this up. I'll probably just have it running on the computer. Pretty simple to get this thing running on a phone. After that, using Pygame subset for Android. But let's thought I'd show it right on the phone. So first thing we're gonna do is import Pygame sys initialize Pygame, set up the initial screen, I'm going to set it to 480 times 320. So my son's phone is Sam's LG Optimus S or something. So the screen is pretty small. It's 480 times 320. The runs fine. You do most of our development on there. Then we just going to set up the framework, starting from scratch to show everyone that you can get something up pretty quickly. Just set up the main game loop, set up the event queue, just check to see whether there's a quit. If you're putting this in Android, you have something slightly different, but it's really not that much different. You just set up the key mapping for Android, but right now let's just run it on the computer so we can see what's up here. So right now we have a completely blank screen. There's nothing on the screen. We're going to start putting some animation on there. This is a 30-cell animation. There's 6 cells on this sprite sheet. We're in a horizontal axis, and there is 5 cells going on the vertical axis. So we're going to load the main sprite sheet. Just the name of the file. I'm going to find the sheet size. And then I manually counted that there's 6 of these little blue men going on a horizontal axis. So there's 5 of them going on the vertical. So with this we can calculate the individual width of one blue man on the sheet. Okay, I'll just make sure that it still works. It's a completely blank screen, no error messages. Nothing's being blitted to the screen right now. Let's create an empty list for the cells. Instead of cutting up this cells manually with something like GIMP, I'm just going to use some commands within Pygame to slice the main sheet up. Zero is the far left edge of the sheet. The first element of the sheet size tuple is going to be the width. I don't want the height. And it's going to increment it. The step is the cell height. So it starts off at 0, goes all the way to the bottom of the sheet, and every time through this loop it's going to move the slice down by the height of the cell. So now we do the horizontal slicing of the sheet. Sheet size, the first element 0 is going to be the entire width of the sheet. I'm stepping it by the width of each individual cell. The cell, again, being an animation cell, it's the blue man. I'm going to set up a surface. Size of the surface is going to be the cell width. So what I'm going to do is create I'm going to create 30 surfaces. Each surface is going to be the size as the width of each individual man. And then we're going to store those surfaces into a list. But first we need to slice the men out. I'm going to use blit. Most people know blit. It primarily is the first two arguments of blit. What blit does, it places one surface on top of another surface. So I have a fairly small surface, the one I'm calling surface. I have a bigger surface called main sheet, which is all 30 sprites. But I'm going to take only a portion of that. So I'm going to blit that big image onto the smaller surface image. Move it down for some. This is a 4 tuple. Okay, so this is the key part of this blit command. It's going to take the area as a third argument that is passed into the method. X, Y is the starting position. So it's going to start it initially the first time through the loop at 0, 0. It's the upper left hand corner. Then it's going to take the slice being the width of the first cell. It's just width of one cell and the height of the cell. Second time through the loop, the X one, it's going to move it over by the width of the cell here. So it's going to take the second character animation. Here you go. First time takes the first cell here. Second time it takes the second cell. It continues on for 30 times. Once it reaches the end of the row, it drops down by the Y, which is the height of one of the cells. to append it to the list. So now we have a list, 30 elements long. Contains all of our little animations. You don't have to use GIMP or Photoshop to save them as individual files, a little bit more convenient. Now we're going to access each individual element of the list. Let's go into the main loop. So initialize the cell position as 0. It's going to be less than the cell length initially. So the next set of numbers is just a 2-integer tuple. You could use a rectangle. If you use a rectangle, the blit will just take the upper left-hand corner of the rectangle. So I'm just going to put 2 numbers down. The first is the x-coordinate. I'll make my man, hopefully, 100 pixels in his left edge, and make them 10 pixels down from the top. Let's see if the man is running. He's running very fast. There's no timer on here to set the frames per second for the clock, so he's running quite quickly. And also you'll notice that I didn't make the blue background transparent yet. Let's do that right now. First, let's slow him down. Set to 30. Some people like to set it to 50. My son's phone is pretty slow, so I like to set it to 30. We're just going to tick the clock. Remember, I set the constant frames per second, or FPS, to 30. And we have our guy. Now he's running pretty smoothly. He's running at a pretty good clip. 30 frames per second, and there are 30 animations. So he's completing one full cycle of all his cells every second. Good stride. Let's make the blue background transparent. It's going to grab the color at the upper left-hand corner of the surface. I'll call it the variable color key. Call it anything. Zero, zero being the upper left-hand corner of that surface. And I'll set the surface color key. So the get at will pull the RGB, the color from that 00 pixel. It's a per pixel. And it's going to set the transparent color with set underscore color key. See if it works. So the background is now transparent, but I'm not blanking out the screen on every cycle. So I'll do that right now. So prior to putting the character, I will put it all with black. There we have a guy cruising along on a black background. Final thing we'll do right here is we'll put a slightly moving background on the back. Make him look like he's cruising through some desolate wasteland. Fortunately, I have a panoramic shot of a desolate wasteland right here on my computer. Let's load up the background. I'll just call it background. Use Pygame.image.load to accept the initial surface. Just name the files right here. Again, this is just a actual photograph that I just ran through a filter on GIMP, so it looks a little bit more like a cartoon animation, but it's just a panoramic view of some desolate wasteland. Set the background width. So I know the end of the picture. I'm going to set up one slice of the background. This just sets up the surface. I haven't sliced it yet. Oops. Again, my son's phone has a screen of 40x320. X coordinate. I'll move it over 2 pixels per cycle of the main loop. So I'm going to fill the background, so I probably don't need to fill it with all black right now. Hopefully this works. Let's make sure that hasn't reached the edge of the screen. If it hasn't, we'll move the X piece of that, the left edge of the slice. I'm going to move it over by 2 pixels. If you remember, I set BG speed to 2. We'll just use split again. Remember, this is the background, right? The background is the surface that was created by loading the image. Zero, zero is just the upper left-hand corner. BGX. BGX right here, initially 0. But I'm going to increment it by 2 every time through the loop. Next coordinate is the Y. It's always going to be 0. It's right at the top of the screen. It's the width of the area that I'm cutting, the height of the area that I'm cutting. I'm cutting one screen size every time I go for it. see whether it works. Oh. Okay, there you go. So this is a pretty quick tutorial of using Pygame to set up an animation using 30 cells from a single sprite sheet. You could probably make the project a little bit easier if you did use Photoshop or GIMP to slice it up beforehand, and then you can use individual files, but I thought this one was pretty quick as well too. Next step would be to put some ground here at the bottom, so he's running on some solid ground, and then put some trees in the background and also some maybe make them jump up and down. Worked kind of a similar project with my son. I'll just show you something that might have taken I don't know, it's a couple hours. This next one here. So this one is actually a little bit less smooth. There's less movement in there's less cells in animation, and I only have one type of cactus right now. This one does use parallax scrolling, so you see the ground it's moving over 8 pixels per cycle, same as the cactus. And these trees are actual photographs in the back. So if you spend another hour, you can get a game working. I don't have the lives working right now. So that's the end of the tutorial. Hope it was useful. I do have a blog with some additional information on how, if you want to get Pygame working, you can check out pychildren.blogspot.com. I usually just use Teach My Son, but thought I'd make a video just for